My project is on the intersections of rebel ideology and peasant political participation in Telangana, India, which is a part of the southern region of India where the Maoists have long been active in mobilizing for agrarian struggle. It's interesting because there were so many motivations for this struggle, and it had kind of a nationalist impetus, which was to bring down this corrupt leader, the Nizam of Hyderabad, and it was also as I said, a class-based kind of agrarian struggle against what people saw as an illegitimate landowning system. But there was also a cultural dimension, and so you had people who joined for reasons of wanting to preserve their linguistic and cultural autonomy. And so the Maoists, who were not quite Maoists, but at that time were communists, sort of developed a language of rebellion and of mobilization that was able to bring together these different motivations for peasants and workers, and people who were kind of new to these ideas. And what's interesting is that at first they were mobilizing for nonviolent actions. They refused to pay taxes. They boycotted landlords' houses and kept them kind of confined. They would orchestrate roadblocks. And then it became kind of a more defensive movement, and so peasants were encouraged by the communist leaders to use, spears and slingshots and muzzle loaders to defend their land. There are a lot of gray zones between, what we would think of as civil society organizations, those defending caste rights or, even human rights, land rights, advocating for different kinds of reform, sometimes allying with the Maoists. And so you have this kind of troublesome in one sense, but really fascinating intersection of nonviolent and violent tactics when really people are just pursuing their political goals. This kind of blurry boundary between violent and nonviolent action, or legal and illegal political action, makes it difficult for the government to just say, well, we're restoring security and protecting citizens and fighting the insurgency, because, as I said, you may have sort of legitimate forms of collaboration and mobilization that are sort of nested within these long-term, existing violent movements. And when you have that situation, I think it's important to keep in mind that even those activists and civil society organizations that are committed to nonviolence and working for dialogue, let's say, between the insurgency and the government, they're operating in a context of threat, a constant threat of violence.